What's happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to another episode of World of Warcraft Dungeon Overview. This episode, we're going to be looking at the Temple of Atal'Hakkar, more commonly referred to as the Sunken Temple. I'm going to be running through it with my Retribution Paladin here, and with that being said, let's dive straight into it. Thousands of years ago, there was a small sect of the Gurubashi trolls called the Atal'Hakkar, who wanted to bring the avatar of the fearsome Loa, Hakkar the Soulflayer, into Azeroth. Luckily, these priests were in the minority of their society, and were eventually banished from Zul'Gurub to the Swamp of Sorrows. There, the Atal'Hakkar established a temple in the heart of the swamplands in order to commence their dark ritual. The green dragon aspect Ysera caught wind of what the trolls were planning on doing, and put a stop to their scheming immediately. The Temple of Atal'Hakkar was destroyed, sunken into the murky waters of the swamp. Ysera also stationed one of her consorts and some of the most promising drakes within her brood to guard the temple from any who might still try to summon the Soulflayer. Years have passed since that time, and it's apparent that some of the Atal'Hakkar have survived, as the rituals within the halls of the temple have started up yet again. It also appears that the green dragons stationed inside of the temple have been overcome by the corruption of the Emerald Nightmare, making for a very dangerous combination of threats to the world. Another of Ysera's consorts, Lord Aetherius, has traveled to the Sunken Temple to put a stop to the trolls' rituals, and to put his corrupted kin to rest. He has tasked adventurers with dredging through the supposedly flooded halls in order to find the source of evil and put a stop to it once and for all. Atal'Hakkar, or Sunken Temple as it's more commonly referred to as, is a level 45 to 60 dungeon located within the mid-eastern portion of the Swamp of Sorrows. It's pretty hard to miss, since it's in the middle of the bay that makes up the vast majority of the eastern side of the map. You'll have to make your way across the bay and head up the stairs to the temple, and begin to make your way into its winding corridors. There is one small room where you have to swim underwater for all of 5 seconds, but after that, the path to the dungeon entrance is pretty straightforward. You're more than likely going to fight a mob here or there in the swamp going towards the bay, and there's also some aggro fish in the bay itself. But there aren't very many mobs to fight in the temple. There are 2 corrupted dragonkin in the room with the portal, but they're pretty easily avoided. Hakkar the Soulflayer is one of the most notorious and ruthless Loa in existence. He was once worshipped by the Gurubashi until they grew tired of living in fear of his demanding rule, constantly requiring sacrifices and bloody rituals to appease this demigod. Only the Atal'Hakkar wished to open the way for the Soulflayer into the world. To start the fight, you just need to click on the pile of bones located just outside the little ritual circle in the center of the room. Once activated, the boss will spawn and become attackable after a few seconds. The main thing to note is that Hakkar can cast Cause Insanity, which causes a random player to begin attacking the rest of the group for a short period of time. I know it'll be tempting, but try to avoid killing your teammates. If at all possible, try to stun and or root them until the effect wears off and they regain control of themselves. Jamalan is the leader of the Atal'Hakkar sect, and is a fanatic for Hakkar the Soulflayer. While lost in a trance-like state, Jamalan has received instructions from his Loa master on how to use the blood of his green dragon enemies in order to speed up the summoning ritual. There's also a bit referencing that Jamalan's actions may be causing the Emerald Nightmare to corrupt the green dragons watching over the temple, but it doesn't appear as though the trolls or Hakkar are doing this intentionally. It appears more that their practices with dark magic have opened up the way for the old gods to corrupt the draconic guardians through the Emerald Dream, of which the green dragons are most in tune with. Jamalan is accompanied by his undead servant Ogam the Wretched, who should be taken out as quickly as possible. Ogam has about half the health of the boss, so it shouldn't be too difficult to take him down in a timely manner. After the trash is taken down, Jamalan can cast a hex on a random player, significantly increasing their damage output and causing them to attack their party members. Just like with the Hakkar fight, try to stun or root the hex player until the effect wears off. 4 of the more promising drakes in the Green Dragon brood accompanied Ysera's consort into the Sunken Temple to assist in guarding the ritual grounds from the trolls, and they were all too eager to prove their worth. Dreamscythe, Weaver, Morphaz, and Hazaz eventually fell to the corruption of the Emerald Nightmare. They now attack all those who enter the temple, regardless of their intentions. Upon killing the Prophet and making your way back to the central corridor, Dreamscythe and Weaver will swoop down and begin to circle the room until they are aggroed. Morphaz and Hazaz will appear in the hallway just before the final boss. Once their fights start, there is not much to know in terms of mechanics. They're pretty much just tank and spanks as a result of there being 4 of them. The only kind of advice I can give is that it seems to be most effective when focusing one of them down at a time, then shifting attention to the other. Eranikus was once a consort of the green dragon aspect Ysera, until he was tasked by his lady to guard the Temple of Atal'Hakkar from the Atal'Ai trolls. For many years he has battled against the pesky trolls and stomped out their incessant rituals for summoning the Soul Flare. Unfortunately, the trolls' dark magics have allowed for the corrupted taint of the Emerald Nightmare to grab hold of the green dragon forces within the temple. The old god's corruption was absolute, and now Eranikus is a shade, permanently trapped in a realm between the Emerald Nightmare and reality. It is up to us to put this once noble dragon down for good, and end his eternal suffering. Eranikus can cast Deep Slumber on a random player, putting them to sleep for 8 seconds. Other than the tank, the affected player should be a secondary priority for the healer, unless the affected player is the healer, in which case, y'all are fucked. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Links for my social media and whatnot are in the description below. And as for the comment question, what's your favorite of the dragon flights? Mine's gotta be the bronze, just because they're one of the more active flights throughout the quests and dungeons in Warcraft. Anyways, that's all the time I've got for today. I will see you all tomorrow for a brand new episode of the Overwatch How To series, so until then, don't die.